way. As I just drop everything and smash the place up. Right, that will do. Hi, so good evening, Manisha.
Hi.
Good evening. I just want to say, first of all, thank you, a huge thank you to this wonderful lady. I love watching her so much, and I've raved on to lots of my friends at how you're just not brilliant, you're funny, but you're very informative.
That's right.
You've got the whole package, which I'm enjoying your reels. They're hilarious. They're so funny that I had to say, can we have a little chat together so that I can be part of it and learn from you also.
Oh, thank you. Do you know what? The thing is, it's quite difficult sometimes to capture people's attention, isn't it? Especially on social media. So I kind of try to deliver information, education in a fun way, and hope that people will take away, some messages out of that. So yeah, I always try and mix things up a bit.
I think that's the key thing as well. We want to make things fun, grab their attention, but you want to be able to educate people also. And I mean, it's from these subjects like what you raise and you put across anyway, what people are like, oh yeah, I need to learn a bit more about that. Hold on, what's this all about? Hence we chose the subject about protein, because I've seen one of Manisha's posts, and I'm asked this question all the time also. If I'm a vegetarian, or maybe not even a vegetarian, but I don't eat meat, how can I have protein in my diet?
Yeah, and to be fair, it's a common misconception that it's just vegetarians that don't eat enough protein. I myself believed that, and then when I started taking on a few clients during my nutrition course, and I was looking at people's diaries, I thought, oh gosh, actually, this isn't just a vegetarian problem. This is an issue that most people have, because if you think about breakfast, most people don't have a protein-based breakfast, generally because eating a carb-based breakfast is just quicker and easier. So what happens is already you've skipped one potential meal where you could have had a decent amount of protein, which means that you've got to really make up for it for the other two, which we don't. So this doesn't just apply to vegetarians, it applies to everybody really.
And would you say, so I mean, like me, it's so easy to grab a bowl of porridge in the morning, which I do love having my breakfast, but to make eggs, you just think, oh, I haven't got time to make
I
eggs.
agree.
Would you suggest anything else? Like,
yeah, I mean, I agree. You know what? In the mornings, look, everyone is busy. You're either on your way to work or you're sorting out the kids, and nobody who's got time for like scrambled egg on toast or something like that. So I always suggest that you try to find foods that are going to be able to fit into your kind of like routine, because that's really important. And there are loads of things that you could make in advance. You could make overnight oats. You could still have porridge. Maybe just add a little bit of Greek yogurt or protein powder in there. So just to really bump up that that protein. And actually, most people will find that if they do start their day on a protein-based breakfast, I promise you, if you eat enough protein, that it will keep you fuller for longer, because that is one of the benefits. That's one of its jobs, is to increase satiety, so it keeps you fuller for longer. So yeah, so we just need to try to find foods that you like and just add a little bit of protein to it.
yes.
Yeah.
And even for kids, I mean, so many kids are now saying they're coming to school and saying, Mummy, I don't want to eat meat anymore. They're understanding this is an animal. It's actually that animal which has been killed. I don't want to eat that anymore. So, I mean, regardless of how they're thinking about this, it's becoming more popular that they're making that decision, young children, and it's fine, isn't it? They can have their nutrients, their protein still, without having a bacon sandwich or...
Yeah, I think obviously the biggest difference between vegetarians and meat eaters is that we don't eat meat. So it's really important that we're educated on our protein sources, because it took me a really long time to learn this. And I always thought, well, I'm never going to do well in sport. I'm never going to build any muscle because I'm vegetarian. But actually what it was just my own lack of knowledge. And back in those days when I did the marathon about 12 years ago, there was no, you know, I got a brilliant training plan, but I didn't get any nutrition advice. So I ended up, you know, overdoing it, not eating any protein. I didn't even know what protein, and it sounds really silly, but I didn't even know what protein was. Well, I knew eggs were protein, but that was it. So, you know, protein is so, so important. Let me just quickly talk you through the benefits of why everybody needs to have a sufficient amount of protein. So it's required for enzyme function, it's required for your overall health, immunity, muscle growth if that's what you're looking for, muscle maintenance if you're on a weight loss kind of journey. You need to try to maintain a lot more as much as muscle as possible. The older we get, there's a condition called sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss, and that can start as early as 30 years old, and you lose about between 1 to 3% of muscle mass every 5 years. So so it's really important, you know, and you need it for your hair, skin, muscles, joints, pretty much everything.
Yes.
It forms protein forms a structure, 50% of the structure of every single cell in our body. So that's how important it is.
But yes, that shows how the importance of it. But you're just saying about how we lose that, you know, as we get older. This, along with our bone density loss, I mean, we'd be on the floor if we don't look after.
Women are screwed, I tell you. I mean, I went through the menopause 5 years ago, and it's really hard. But you know what? The thing is, again, it's just education, isn't it? If you know, I always say to women, you know what? You need to start. The younger you start implementing certain things into your lifestyle, the lot easier it will be when you're older, because trying to get a woman or a man in their, you know, 40s, 30s, 40s to try to change their lifestyle, change their habits, it can be quite challenging. Whereas, you know, the younger you start, it then becomes, your habits then become part of your lifestyle. So by the time you have kids, you've already got some form of routine in already, so you kind of work around it. Whereas, you know, if you're starting on a health journey, you know, when you've got kids and a full-time job, it's really difficult to try to find that time, you know.
And I think if you don't structure it out and have that understanding of what is required with your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins, you know. Also, what do you think about, just quickly, remember there was the Atkins diet and keto. So they're protein based, but then they're full of fat, aren't they? Lots of.
Yeah. So if we talk about the Atkins diet, obviously at the time, I remember loads of people lost weight on the Atkins diet. Now there's lots of reasons for that. Number one, you know, what they were doing is the principle was that you ate lots of meat and vegetables, and either reduce your carbs or severely or you just cut them out. Now, the problem with that was, at that time, it wasn't identified that a lot of the meats that people were eating were processed meats. We now know that processed meats can lead to cancer, can lead to high cholesterol. And if I'm right in saying, I don't really remember at the time, but if I remember rightly, I think there were years later, a lot of the people that did Atkins did end up with high cholesterol and quite a lot of these metabolic syndrome because of that reason. So ketogenic diets are slightly different in that they are medium protein, very high fat, and very low carbs. Now, if you eliminate any food group from your diet, naturally you are cutting calories, which means that you are more likely to lose weight because you're in a calorie deficit. But carbohydrates are a really important part of our diet because that's where all our fiber comes from. And fiber is so, so important. You know, when I talk to people, I say you need to focus on two things really, whether your goal is weight loss, whether it's health, whether it's muscle, it doesn't matter what your goal is. You need to get sufficient protein and you need to get enough fiber. And you need to eat the right types of carbohydrates in order to get the fiber.
So your poo lots.
Yeah.
You need pooping lots, don't you?
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, because my husband is, I would say, probably plant-based, and whenever my mum cooks, or she used to move in with us during lockdown, and he always used to say to me, "Your mum's food really makes me have the shits," you know. And now I say to him, you know what? It's not her food, it's not the spiciness, it's the fact that it's a lot of carbs, so you're getting in all that fiber. That's what it is. But up
Yes.
until then, he honestly thought there was something in her food that was making him go. So, and honestly, I can't, I mean, fiber is a different topic. So, you know, we're talking about protein today, but,
Yeah.
you know, but they are both really, really important for your health.
Very, very important. And I think also the thing you've tapped on, which we know, is the processed meat. So it's when, so people are, if they're having the protein, animal-based protein, it's where it's sourced from, how it's sourced, isn't it? That it's the good meat. So things like your sausages and your bacon, your ham and spam and crap meats like that. That's what's really bad for you, isn't it? I mean, people
Yeah,
eat
they're
that.
full of trans fats. It's the way that they've been processed. They have a lot of things added to them. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with meat. My children eat meat. But I think we just need to be a bit careful again about our choices of protein foods,
Yeah,
meat food. So, you know, chicken is fine, lean chicken, you know, so where you're cooking it yourself, obviously not a KFC. You know, so any foods that you can cook yourself, you know exactly how they're going to be prepared, how they're going to make them, and obviously that will be, you know, that will change the whole kind of like nutritious value of that
yeah,
food. So we just, I don't say to anyone stop anything, because you know life is about enjoying foods as well. So you
yeah.
should minimize the amount of processed foods that you have. In fact, my daughter had a bacon sandwich on Saturday, and I did a post on it on my story. And my cousin said, because it was her first bacon sandwich, and my cousin said, "Oh my God, this is neglect." And I said, "What is?" She goes, "She's nearly 10 and it's her first bacon sandwich."
Oh,
And I said, "Yeah, but it's because you know, they weren't ready to eat. They didn't want to eat bacon before. That they eat you know, they don't really eat that many sausages either. But that's, I think, because my husband is he's got more plant-based now. So
yeah.
as a family now, we just generally, they eat a lot less meat now, and we eat a lot more plant-based foods now. So
Because you're the one making it, you know. So I guess unless they're having it in school or something, then they wouldn't be having it unless you're making it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Because I'm vegetarian, they're not. So you know, generally it's either whatever I'm cooking. They do eat a lot of vegetarian protein as well now, plant-based
Yeah,
meats now, because obviously because of me.
yeah.
So so that it works out quite well now.
And I think that's good because I think you're not forcing that upon them to be a vegetarian. They will make up their own minds along the way. You know, they're going to make that decision. It was my daughter, one Georgie. It was when she watched Babe years and years and years ago,
Yeah.
and she put together the pig, and this is the bacon. What do you mean that came from this little pig which is snorted away? And from then she was like, it was just in her own mind that she made that decision and said, no way, and I eat this. And I think it's the same. It's probably good not to force it upon your kids. They'll make that decision themselves. You know, they're going to come to the understanding, okay, why wouldn't I want this? What's in it? But anyway, back to our protein. So there's a few questions which came in, which to me were very important questions. They were
They were
definitely
really good questions.
they're questions I'm asked as well,
Yeah.
and these are good because I know most people what do they understand about protein? Let's let them have this understanding. So 4 says I who loses the screen now.
I thought I'd
Here.
written them down, but I haven't.
So very, very good questions. And for people, you know, obviously, as you said, we need protein in our diet. So number 1, so people say that vegetarians can't eat enough protein in their diet. They don't eat enough protein in their diet, so they can't because they don't eat meat. Is this true? So
It can be true. I think we all need to eat a sufficient amount of protein. So that can be, I mean, the NHS guidelines say about 0.8 grams per body weight in kilos. Now, even that can be quite challenging for some people, depending on your diets,
Yeah.
because all of our diets are pretty much more carb heavy than they are protein heavy. To get the adequate amounts in can be quite challenging, and that's why I think vegetarians need to be a lot more aware of what they're eating and how much of it that they're eating. So it can be quite challenging, because if you eat the right amount, I promise you, you will notice such a difference in everything, you know, in your energy levels, in your immunity. I mean, like my hair, since honestly, I can't tell you, about 4 years ago, my hair was dead short, and now it's so long and so healthy. And, you know, and people always think, you know, what do you do? And I say nothing. I just eat protein. That's one of its jobs. So, so yes, you can. But like I said, you do need to know what it is and how much protein gives you, because that's the other thing with vegetarian food. Vegetarian protein sources, the ones that we think are high in protein, are actually generally higher in carbs. So if you take all your lentils, for example, brilliant source of it's a brilliant source of food, you know, packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber, all of that, but they're actually, per 100 grams, they're actually higher in carbs than they are in protein. So vegetarians, very rarely, there are very few vegetarian foods that are lean proteins, and what that means is foods that are very high in protein but lower in carbs and fats. So as a meat eater, you've got loads of those. You've got fish, like all your white fish, you've got chicken, you've got turkey, you've got I don't know, like loads of other things. Whereas as vegetarians, we don't actually have much lean protein. So that's why, again, it's important to be educated on, well, what's a lean protein? What kind of ratio protein is, you know, is lentils going to give me, or plant-based meat's going to give me? And just having that understanding will help you bump up that your protein quite a lot.
And that is, I think that's so important, because I think that's a question so many people say, well, how, even my mum will say that, how can you get your protein then, you know, if you're not having your meat and whatever? And it's like, oh mum, there's lots of alternatives nowadays, honestly.
I tell you, since The Game Changer, that is a pathetic documentary, by the way. It's so one-sided, it's untrue, and I'm saying that as a vegetarian. But since Game Changers came out, that's the one good thing that it did do, was it created a market for vegan and more plant-based protein. So now every supermarket has more than just corn and tofu. Two of the things I don't like. So for me, this is brilliant now, because it just makes it so much easier for me to
have a choice. It's just having that choice, isn't it? Now there's so much choice there, and there really is. Moving on to the next question. So, oh, actually, you covered that. How much protein should I be getting each day? So we know,
so I didn't finish it. So the government guidelines are 0.8. What the evidence suggests is that we need anywhere between 1.2 grams per body weight in kilograms to anything up to 2 grams. Now, your protein levels, how much you need, is going to be dependent on a few factors. So it depends on your age, because the older you are, the more you need. It depends on whether you exercise or not. So somebody exercising, you know, will need more protein than somebody who's not exercising. Now, if you're, you know, if anyone watching is thinking, oh my God, how the hell am I going to get 1.2 grams in? I would say just start slow. Just start wherever you're starting, whatever your start point is, and just gradually build up, because you don't have to go from what you're eating today to 1.5 or whatever tomorrow. Just slowly increase until you get to where you need to get to based on your activity levels, really, and your age.
I think that's a really good, valid point there, because it's not going to be the same for you and for me, and it's going to vary for activity level or age, and there's a number of factors which come into that. And I think also people like, how can I eat all those lentils and beans? I'm blowing off all night. And on the
that is true. That is true.
Which they probably, but, Just
I mean,
steer
lentils
clear.
can cause bloatedness in some people, and one of the things that you can do is maybe again just start small. So have small portions, and gradually build them up until it reduces the bloating. So that might help. But if anyone's got any questions, just pop them in the box, and I'll answer them.
Yeah.
As
Sorry,
soon as
it's so funny. I mean, there's always the wind factor is going to come in, adding all these lentils and legumes and everything. Right. Anyway, the next one. Is it true? So this is another interesting one. Is it true that vegetarians have to combine certain foods in order to absorb the protein?
Yeah, this is true. So proteins are made up of amino acids, and we have non-essential amino acids, and we have essential amino acids. Now, you don't really need to know this, but I always think that if you tell people the why behind something, they're more likely to understand and they're more likely to do it. So I'm just thinking about, I normally use, like, this actually was here. I normally use Lego as an example. So if you're kind of building a brick wall, I know, right? So if you're building a brick wall, I can't really do it now, but because I need a bit more. But if you're building a brick wall and you need 20 bricks to build a brick wall, if you imagine that each brick is an amino acid, right? And you need 20 amino acids to make a complete protein. Now, all animal and dairy foods are complete sources of protein. So they have all the 20, so we don't need to worry about them. However, with the vegetarian ones, we have incomplete proteins, which means that they are missing one or more amino acid, right? They're called essential because the body can't make them. So you have to get them through your diet, okay? So if we take, for example, I'm just making up, if you take, for example, lentils, they might only have 3 amino acids, for example. So you need to find another food source that's got the other 4. Now, you don't need to know what amino acids are what, because that makes it too complicated. But all you need to know is if you combine it with another plant-based food, i.e. rice, i.e. chapatis, i.e. whatever, then you're going to be guaranteed to make that complete amino acid, yeah? Which means then that you have a complete protein. So that's why it's really important. Now, people often say, well, do you need to do that in the same meal? And years ago, it was thought that you needed to eat the same food groups at the same time to make a complete protein. That's not the case now. You just need to get it in over a 24-hour period. So you can have nuts in the morning, your lentils in the afternoon, something else in the evening. It doesn't matter. But what matters the most is that you have a variety, and it's so important because, like you said, we're not going to sit there and look at the ingredients and say, oh yeah, right, that one's got those 4, that one's got those 6, so you don't need to know any of that.
And combine.
Yeah, we just all you need to know is just eat a variety, and that's really important anyway. It's really important for your gut to eat a variety of different plant-based foods. So
yes, and that makes sense. Again, that makes sense also because I used to think about proteins and think, oh my god, I've got to start knowing what food you're meant to add to combine it together to complete this amino acid, this little building blocks, whatever. But yeah, and if you can have it over that 24 hours, then amazing, because you're not thinking, come on, I need to eat more of this.
Yeah, there are certain foods on my page. I did like a Venn diagram not so long ago, a couple of weeks ago, based on vegetarian protein, and I did like one half with all the incomplete proteins, and then I did another one with complete proteins, and then I also did like a bit in the middle where if you combine certain foods, so for example tacos and kidney beans make a complete protein, hummus and pitta make a complete protein, lentils and dal make a complete protein. So there's quite a few different ones, just to give people an idea of what foods you can combine together. So that's really useful. So if anyone wants to go and check it out, it's really obvious because it's a Venn diagram. So
I'll share that. I seen that and I thought that was amazing and very easy to understand and to follow. As you said, you're foods and going, oh, okay, not so difficult. You don't have to figure out all these things. You've got some simple everyday combinations, things we every day be having. So yes, so that's very good, and that was very funny too, also, because I enjoyed that too. Manisha's with her reels, they're so funny. You'll get hooked on them. You'll enjoy watching them, but you will learn. And this is, I think, I used to be a teacher many years ago, and I used to try and make things not always comical, because kids would be like, all right, you're not that funny, but just for learn and for them to absorb the information. So they would be like, oh yeah, miss, I know now, I know how to do that. I think it was the only way to get it into their head. So in an adult way, you're educating people, but in a fun way that people enjoy. It's not a boring add this to this to that to that people go, oh no, you know, you're engaging a lot of people because they're enjoying what you're giving.
The week that I was doing, I was doing a week of the Asian diet basically, and I remember coming on my stories and saying, oh my gosh, guys, like trying to talk about lentils and making that exciting and making it unique is quite challenging. But do you know what? It was one of my most popular posts because I did try, and people really enjoyed it. So, you know, it's just trying to get people to read some information that they might not normally read, because they might think lentil. Well, why do I want to know about lentils? But you know, it's really important. So I try anyway.
You're doing well trying though, and I'm loving it. So, and I know everybody else is too. Right, another question, your last question. So, should I, could I, would I be adding protein powder to my diet? So would you recommend, say it's a good addition?
Sorry, I was just reading what somebody had written about you, that you rock. Yes, so what a small world that is, isn't it?
Yay!
So can you add protein powder to your diet? Absolutely. It's not a food supplement. People say, oh, it's food supplement. Oh, and the most common question I get asked is, I don't want to bulk up. So protein powder has a bit of a reputation because you often see bodybuilders drinking it in the gym. And the reason why they do is because it's a really common, it's a really quick way of getting a bit of protein in you. And for bodybuilders in particular, it's quick, it's fast absorbing, it's really high in protein, and they need a lot of it. So for them, it was a perfect choice. So so the answer is, can you? Yes. Should you? If you, it should be an addition to your diet. So if you can't get enough through your diet, then fine, take a shake. I take one every day. I don't have a problem with that. However, like somebody messaged me the other day and said, is it okay if I have 2 or 3 shakes a day? And I said, well, okay, let's not get confused with let me break it down. So a protein shake is a great way for people, vegetarian or not, to get a protein shake in, right? It's convenient, it's so versatile, you can make so many things out of it. And you know what, it's 25 grams of protein per scoop is a lot for very little calories, right? However, you have to remember that if you've got if you say you've got like a protein shake on one hand and you've got some corn on the other hand, for example, say, okay, the protein powder will give you loads and loads of protein, but it won't give you anything else. There's no other nutrients attached to that, okay? There's no vitamins, there's no minerals, there's nothing. It's just pure protein, which is brilliant. However, the corn will give you your protein, maybe not as high as the powder, but it'll give you your protein, it'll give you loads of fiber and other stuff that comes with it. So we have to remember that we still need to get all our other nutrients in. So if you've got all your nutrients in from your diet, and you're still lacking your protein and you want to have 2 shakes, then that's fine. But it's really important to remember that every food group will give you lots of nutrients and vitamins and minerals that a protein shake won't.
Yes. And
so
I think
the short answer is yes, that's fine.
So good. And that's good. I mean, I'm always buying different flavored proteins, and I add, like in my shake, I'll have it with the nut milk, some peanut butter, frozen banana, and I love it. I think it's so yummy. It's like really delicious. But I think you can also, you know, you were starting to have 2 or 3 in a day. The calories can add up if you're adding these additional things into your shake. So I think, as you said, for the protein itself, powder, if you're just lacking protein, you could get it, you could top it up with that. Now, you know, there's like so many different protein powders which are out now, and I think whey is the most common one. Was that sort of the original one which came out, the whey protein? You see it everywhere. in probably the men's bulking up powders particularly, but then a lot of the other protein powders now. But then there's also some vegetarian ones, because whey, the cow's milk, it's from cow's milk.
Yeah, so there's so if you're going to buy a vegetarian one, then Whey Impact is the best one. Again, I've got a post on this somewhere on there. Whey Impact is the best one. You don't need Diet, you don't need any of the other fancy ones, just Whey Impact is absolutely fine. If you are vegan,
saying that WHEY again.
WHEY, yeah, WHEY, Whey Impact, yeah. And if you are vegan, then you've got a few different choices of protein powders. So that can be made from hemp, it can be made from pea protein. I think pea protein is probably, or it can be made from a combination of different types of protein. So yeah, so whichever one is going to be suitable. There's also a lactose free one as well. I forgot what that was called now, but yeah, if you have any kind of stomach issues, then choose the other one. I forgot what it's called now, but it'll be on the packet anyway when you look at them. So yeah, so choosing one is it's pretty straightforward if you just stick to Whey Impact, I think. And lots of companies now do sachets as well, so you could maybe buy a sachet and see how you see if you like the flavor.
Well, for cheaper, can't you? We're like Amazon do them now. You don't have to go into Holland and Barrett and spend ridiculous amounts on them, because some of them can be quite costly. I've noticed. But you can order.
Yeah, I mean, there are companies like My Protein that actually they do really good deals sometimes. So I always buy things like even from Holland and Barrett when it's the penny sale. I just bulk buy everything and just do it that way. So it's whatever's convenient for you. But I just did want to say that for the older people, like my mom takes a protein shake every day. So yeah, every day she's been doing it for she's 80 now. You know what? Because again, as an Asian vegetarian, she doesn't have any, other than eating maybe her lentils in the evening. Because again, lunchtime, what do people eat at lunchtime? Because it's not lentils and rice, so especially in that generation anyway, I don't even know what she has for a lunch, but it's certainly not protein based. So at least that way, I know that she's getting her at least 25 grams, which is nowhere near what she should be eating, but it's a good source of it. So yeah, so protein powders, honestly, it doesn't make you bulky at all. What's going to make you bulky is, well, you will know this, is lifting weights and being in a calorie surplus. And
women, you'd have to lift a hell of a heavy weights on a regular basis to bulk up. So as you said, a lot of women are like, yeah, but bulk up. It's like, no, you won't bulk up. It's
well,
the
Sandy,
lean
as
protein.
you know, and as I know, it's not that easy to build muscle. Losing fat is easy. You just eat in a calorie deficit, but building muscle is so much more strategic. You've got to do quite a few things in order to build the muscle. It's not just eating protein, or it's not just resistance training. It's quite a few different things, isn't it? So yeah, you won't get bulky. My mom she hasn't got abs yet, and she hasn't got biceps, so she's doing all right.
Not afraid of little bikini song or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet, but I'll keep my eye on her.
And just a last thing, can you recommend any, sorry, this is just me thinking off the top of my head now. So different fruits and vegetables, there is protein in some of them, but not heaps amounts of proteins in veggies.
So some green vegetables do have protein, like broccoli, for example. Again, it's obviously an incomplete protein. But actually, you'll be quite surprised. Actually, you mentioned a really good point, actually. So yeah, okay. So edamame beans.
Yes.
Great source. That's a complete protein, actually. So what you could do is, so peas is another one that has protein in it as well, and broccoli. Those are the three that come to mind. There's quite a few. But out of the three of them, edamame beans have a lot more. So what you could do is substitute your your peas, and add edamame beans in instead. So if you're making a curry, or if you're making, I don't know, pasta, anywhere where you would normally eat peas, you could substitute with edamame beans.
And edamame, I love edamame. You can buy them in the you've got the Korean or the Japanese little supermarkets around the place now, and you can buy the frozen. I mean, I'm not really one for buying any frozen foods, but umami is one thing.
Oh, you need to watch my live. You need to watch out for my reel tomorrow, because it's all about fresh versus frozen.
Oh, good. Oh, I will.
Yeah.
Oh, I will. Oh, that really interests me, because even when I make the, you know, you can freeze them, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to freeze them, you know. So even,
to be honest, I'm the same.
that tomorrow. Sure. And are there any sweet alternative protein? Are there any, can you think of any off mind? I mean, sorry, I'm throwing that one into you. And that's for me as a selfish person, because
When you say sweet, what do you mean? Like a dessert?
like a desserty, yes. Are there any?
Okay. So this is on my page. It's a recipe, and everyone that has tried it loves it, right? So what I do is I get Greek yogurt. And by the way, anybody who's eating yogurt, if you're not eating Greek yogurt, you need to swap. Well, not, you don't need to, but it would be ideal for you to swap, because the protein content is actually double the amount of other yogurts. So so a really good sweet thing that I do as a dessert, and I love it, is I'll get like however much protein the yogurt, so it's about 200 grams. I add in a little bit of honey, optional, add it in, then I add in a meringue, break it up, mix it all together, and then I add in some berries. And if I'm doing this for breakfast, I'll add in some granola. And I swear it's like the healthy version of Eat and Mess. And that's about 25 grams of protein in that.
Oh, that's a very
really good one. I've got the recipe on there. It's called Protein Eat and Mess, I think, on my page. And obviously it will depend on how much yogurt you have in there.
I'll share that one, because that's definitely, again, you know, people who have a sweet tooth, they are often, what can I eat? I don't want to go for the chocolate or the sweets or whatever. What's this question here? How often do you think it's fine to have the ready-made protein veggie burgers, sometimes made with pea protein?
Do you know what? That's a really good question. I'll answer that one in a minute. What were we just saying just then? I thought of something else sweet, actually. If you wanted to, there are some good protein bars. If you wanted kind of like a chocolate fix, there are loads on the market. I think you're just gonna have to find which ones, because I always find that if I recommend some, people might not like them, but they might like other ones that I don't like. But just check that they've got a sufficient amount of protein and fiber in them, because some have got an insane amount of fiber in them. So if you wanted a little bit of a sweet thing, that's a good idea to have that. So how often do you think it's fine to have ready-made protein veggie burgers sometimes? So with regards to plant-based meats, I would say look at the ingredients, because again, it's a misconception that all plant-based foods are healthy, because they're not. There are some that are brilliant for fiber, brilliant for protein, have very little saturated fats in them, and there are others that taste absolutely gorgeous, but they are really heavy in trans fats. So you just need to check the ingredients of what it is that you're eating. You know, there are so many good ones now, so hopefully you'll have a good, I can't think of a veggie burger offhand, because I think Beyond Meat are quite good, but I haven't had a veggie burger for ages. Yeah, Beyond Meat are quite good. I tell you what else is really good for burgers is it Vivera? Vivera from Tesco's. They might sell them everywhere. They're really good for burgers. There are quite a few, so just check the ingredient labels, and just make sure that per burger, not per 100 grams, because your burger might not be 100 grams, that it's not heavy in fat, that it's high in protein and fiber.
And even better, if you've got time, or you can try and make your own, because you can just put all the yummy things like in there yourself, knowing exactly what goes in there, and and make them quite nice, stick it in a bun.
And that's one of the benefits of making food yourself, isn't it? Is that you know exactly what's going in there. There's no additives, there's no preservatives. You're in total control of what's in there. I've never made a veggie burger, but they're quite easy to do, actually. There'll be loads of good recipes on the net. And I was just looking to see if there was anything that we hadn't covered that we talked about. The only thing I was going to say is we were talking about the kids, weren't we? And whether why they're vegetarian. if any of my children, I've got two daughters, and there's been a few times when one of them has said to me, "Oh, Mummy, I don't want to eat meat anymore." And I say to them, "That's absolutely fine. It's your choice, but you have to start eating the foods that I eat." And then when she looks at my food, she's like, "Oh, no, thanks. It's all right. I'll get this." But they do eat a lot more plant-based foods now. So it's not as, it wouldn't be as bad now. But I have made it clear to them that they don't have to eat meat. Absolutely not. But they do need to, they need a lot more variety in their diet otherwise. And they're old enough to understand that now. It's a little bit different if they're younger. But then they're 9.5 now. But I made a conscious decision when I was pregnant that they wouldn't be vegetarian, because I didn't know about nutrition then. I've only got into nutrition in the last 4 or 5 years. But as a vegetarian, I knew how much I'd struggle getting my protein in. I knew how much, even now, there are some places in the world that I want to visit, and I know I won't go because I just know I'm not going to get decent food, and I'm a foodie. Yeah. And now that doesn't stop some people, because I love my food, and part of going on holiday for me is food. So I went to Japan a few years ago. It was only 4 years ago, and everyone said to me, "Oh, you'll be fine. You know, they've got, you know, it's like really modern now, and you know, they're really up to date with food." And I struggled. I mean, it's the only holiday that I've had where I was dying to come home. I had a McDonald's pretty much, I would say most days, twice a day.
Oh.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong, there were a few vegan restaurants, but it wasn't my type of food. So I'd love to go to South America. I'd love it. But yeah, it puts me off.
Get it. Okay, anyone from South America, can you send in some recipes?
Yeah.
Send you off there.
I mean, I might be wrong, you know, because there are some countries that I've been to and I've been amazed at the amount of food that they have. But you know, places like South America, even America, they're really meat based in their diet. So yeah, of course I could get vegetarian food if I wanted chips and pizza every day, of course. But it's not what I want now. You know, 10 years ago that might have been okay for me, but so yeah, so just based on a few of my experiences, because I've been a vegetarian since for like 40 odd years now, I thought I just want them to have a variety of foods in their diet, and then when they're old enough to make a decision, they can make a decision. Just like they didn't eat beef, actually. This is a good thing. So they didn't eat beef because I'm Hindu, and as a Hindu we don't eat beef.
So they'd never have the
So
girl.
no, and the only reason why is because they didn't need beef in their diet, okay? Because they got the red meat from lamb, either at school or at home. So it wasn't a necessity for me to make sure that they had meat. However, they tried beef not so long ago, and they loved it.
Oh,
so yeah, so that's fine, and they want to eat it now, and that's absolutely fine, and that's my choice. And that's their choice. It makes them happy, so that's fine. They won't be eating a lot because I don't cook. You know, I said to my husband, I won't cook it. I don't mind cooking meat, but I'm not cooking beef.
so only if they're in school or somewhere that they would probably get it, they'd have it then, maybe. Yes.
Yeah. Amy has just said, please put a more protein-based. All right, so I have got loads of protein-based recipes, and if you go to my page in the guide section, just look at the vegetarian. Just look at the vegetarian